Welcome to the Future of RFID Ticketing, presented by Microcom Corporation. Today's presenters are Andrea Flowers from Microcom Corporation and Mark Turner from Microcom Corporation. Andrea Flowers is the National Accounts Manager for Microcom Corporation, a printer manufacturing company. Andrea manages printer and media sales for all the markets Microcom serves, including postal, healthcare, kiosk, and labeling. She graduated from The Ohio State University with a bachelor's degree in animal sciences and a minor in theater. Mark Turner manages ticket printer sales for Microcom Corporation, a printer manufacturing company. Prior to joining Microcom, he spent 16 years at Worldwide Ticketcraft, a leading ticket manufacturer, as Vice President of Information Systems. Mark began his career in the ticketing industry in 1984 at his father's ticketing company, Lasergate Systems, the original barcoded ticket company.
Hi, all of my INTIX friends. I'm very sorry that we're not able to actually be together, but at least we have a virtual platform to go off of this year, so that's very nice. For those of you that don't know, my name is Andrea Flowers. I'm the National Accounts Manager here at Microcom Corporation. We are a thermal printing solutions provider, and we dabble in everything from desktop to kiosk to my personal favorite, RFID, which is the reason that we're all here today. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get the presentation started. RFID stands for Radio Frequency Identification, and essentially it's just the use of radio waves to communicate between two objects. It's a wireless way to send information from one object to another. Although RFID technology has been around since the 30s, it's really within the last 20 to 25 years that we've started to expand the different ways in which it's used. Some current real-world applications for RFID at the moment are customer engagement, access control, admissions, data collection, inventory management, secondary ticket authentication, automated vending, asset tracking, identification, monetary transactions. It just goes on and on and on. The technology is being used in almost every different field out there, and really we're just tapping the surface of what it's able to do. There are a few different types of RFID technologies, and they're classified by the radio frequencies that they use or by the way the tag communicates with the reader. The two types of RFID that we're going to cover in this presentation are HF, which stands for high frequency, and UHF, which stands for ultra high frequency. HF, or high frequency RFID, is the most widely used technology as it's the most secure and it's less sensitive to outside interference. HF scans need to happen within close proximity to one another, meaning the chip and the reader have to be fairly close together in order for a successful scan. There are many different choices for HF inlays and readers, and the more people that adopt this technology, the more it's going to push the price point down for everyone. For example, in the mass transit industry, you can get a ticket with minimal chip memory for about 12 cents. If you're working with classified information or money, for example, you're going to want to go with something a little more secure. So you're probably looking at anywhere from 25 all the way up to 75 cents per ticket, depending how much memory and security you want in there. Under the HF umbrella is another abbreviation that I'm sure we've all heard of, which is NFC. That stands for Near Field Communication. NFC is actually a subcategory of HF RFID. Kind of like all grizzly bears are brown bears, but not all brown bears are grizzly bears. It's the same with RFID. All NFC applications are HF RFID, but not all HF RFID applications are NFC. NFC is an international set of protocols for close communication between two objects. It's commonly used for contactless transactions such as cell phone payments, and it's really become a part of our everyday lives. If you've ever used a credit card with a chip in it and stuck it on a terminal, that's NFC. If you own a cell phone is that an Android 4.0 or higher, your phone has NFC capabilities in it. Apple phones do as well, but they don't operate under the same standards as everybody else. If you attended INTIX last year and had your badge scanned by an exhibitor or a speaker, you were using NFC technology there as well. There are so many great uses for NFC technology that the sky's absolutely the limit. You just have to get really creative. Being a science nerd myself, one of my favorite applications that we've come across was from the Aarhus National History Museum in Denmark. They take RFID inlays and they actually embedded them in a sheep skeleton, and they provided you with a scanner. You'd scan the bones, and then they would pop up on a screen, and it would allow visitors to put them together almost like a giant puzzle piece. It's a wonderful example of customer engagement. Since NFC is so secure, it's the perfect choice for applications like VIP access control, contactless monetary transactions, automated vending, and secondary ticket authentication. The second type of RFID we're going to talk about today is UHF, or ultra high frequency. That has a much larger read range than HF technology, but it's also not as secure. In a UHF system, the reader emits radio waves of a certain frequency that sort of power up the tags they're looking for so they can emit their unique ID number. The tags don't require any batteries, and they can actually last up to a couple years. UHF tickets tend to be quite a bit cheaper than HF tickets, usually around 10 cents per ticket, but you do have to remember that you have less security there. This particular type of technology is perfect for crowd monitoring, capacity, or watching the flow of patrons through a theater or a museum exhibit.
Hi, I'm Mark Turner with Microcom Corporation. We're fans of RFID technology. We've been wondering how that technology might be applied by ticketing software providers in the future. We know that digital tickets are rapidly gaining acceptance, but we've also heard that there are some issues with 100% adoption. Digital tickets offer features and benefits not available on traditional plain paper tickets. But if some portion of the audience still desires a non-digital option, can RFID fill that gap? RFID adds your ticket to the Internet of Things. You can read and write to the chip, unlike a traditional barcode. RFID has long-range scanning for tracking with beacons and sensors, and short-range scanning for conducting admissions and cash transactions. RFID tickets and wristbands can be printed on demand in the box office or at self-service kiosks. We conducted a survey of the INTIX members, and we received some great feedback because this is an outstanding group of people. And we selected some of that feedback to share. During the INTIX weekly Zoom discussions, examples are provided how digital tickets are gaining acceptance. However, there are concerns with phone compatibility, battery life, and screen brightness. Not everyone has a phone or is willing to download an app on their personal device. Some fans want a physical ticket as a souvenir, and some want to use cash for purchases. Some venues and promoters prefer printed will call tickets and complimentary tickets. We asked, do you think some portion of the ticket buying public will prefer to pay a small amount more for a physical RFID-enabled ticket versus downloading an app, if it provides the same safe contactless transactions, social distancing, and contact tracing benefits using RFID-enabled thermal tickets and wristbands printed on demand from staffed ticket booths and self-service kiosks? Josh Ziegenbusch wrote, "We're focused on contactless and digital tickets with our fans, with full expectation that the MLB Ballpark app will be the mechanism to enter the ballpark. While we do anticipate some fans having questions and needing assistance for digital-only entry, that is a direction we're getting from the league level based upon successes at the World Series." Josh makes a good point about the top-down decision-making required for success on a scale like Major League Baseball. The World Series is at the forefront, and its audience is likely to have 100% acceptance of digital tickets sooner than most others. It's an open question as to how soon that will apply to everyone. Bruce Radley wrote, "At the AT&T Center, we're adopting a total mobile mindset. Understanding that not all fans will automatically follow along with us, I suspect there will still be a smaller need for printed tickets. I feel people would be willing to pay a premium for physical RFID-enabled tickets, mostly for souvenirs or inability or no desire to use an app." Bruce mentions the mindset of wanting to go 100% digital, and that not all fans will automatically follow along. The fans that still get paper tickets won't have the same features and benefits as those getting digital. Perhaps adding RFID to the ticket and making it part of the Internet of Things could close this gap. But it's an open question how many people would be willing to pay more for a live souvenir ticket or to avoid using an app on their phone. Anthony Esposito wrote, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta Falcons, and Atlanta United are currently able to print on RFID stock and are using ticket printers provided by Ticketmaster and RFID stock purchased from WW&L. All of their walk-up buyers get a mobile ticket sent directly to their phone, but instances where someone does not have the proper phone or is insistent on a printed ticket, then they can provide one of them from the RFID stock. Anthony provides specific information about how RFID is currently being used. Ticketmaster and Weldon Williams and Lick are leaders with the technology. It certainly may provide additional security against counterfeiting and may play a role in controlling ticket resales. Laura Schoolman wrote, with a physical ticket, there's opportunity to provide a more personalized experience while the RFID inlay handles the logistics. Because many of us tend to tap surfaces to activate NFC, mobile entry is rarely 100% touch-free. However, an RFID credential gets guests in and out safely and conveniently by reading chips from much farther distances. Laura provides insight from a company that has tremendous experience with RFID ticketing as well as other applications such as RFID parking tags. She makes an interesting observation about the differences with the long-range and short-range scanning. And I agree that by adding the chip to the physical ticket and making it part of the Internet of Things, you can allow the chip to handle the logistics. Fred Maglione wrote, while I believe there is a segment of the population that wants a physical ticket for a number of different reasons, I believe the industry is going paperless so they can control and cash in on the secondary ticketing. Fred makes an important point about the value of the secondary market. It'll be interesting to see if RFID can play a role in controlling the resale of paper tickets. On a secondary market, many fans still prefer to receive a physical ticket and may be reluctant to use their personal device. If some are willing to pay more for an RFID ticket, it may create a new revenue stream. Ghislaine Bullman wrote, I have to be honest and say that right now, I don't see our ticket buyers wanting to pay more for RFID, and our clients tend to want to reduce costs for their customers too. Ghislaine makes a good point about the cost. It only makes sense to add RFID to the ticket if the plain paper ticket just doesn't meet the needs of the facility and going 100% digital is not achievable. It's an open question if a new revenue stream could be created from patrons who are willing to pay a little bit extra to avoid downloading an app or to have a souvenir. Larry Freevault wrote, although I would prefer contactless at this time, it is just not an option at our venue for multiple reasons. Many patrons still prefer the ticket as a souvenir. We still have a fair core group of patrons that do not have smartphones, so they need a printed ticket. After working some drive-in events this summer, I have found some challenges with entry due to the screen brightness. So for the current time, it looks like we will still be generating tickets for walk-up sales. Larry confirmed some of the points that got us started thinking about how ticketing companies may use RFID in the first place. In addition, for some venues like water parks, it's not practical to use a digital device for everything. Larry's comments illustrate both the desire to go to digital and the practical view that it may take time to reach 100% digital ticketing. Allison Berry wrote, we actually do find that many people prefer a hard pass as opposed to an electronic one, or they like the option of both. For drive-in gates, it was sometimes hard for someone to present their mobile device. It was tethered to a charging cord or secured in a dash mount. These folks kept a hard pass in a console for quick scanning. With an absence of programming, the pass became more about tracking volume and being able to notify visitors should a positive case occur. Allison also confirmed some of the points that got us started thinking about how ticketing companies may use RFID in the future. Scanning barcodes at the entry point for admission data for contact tracing could be improved by having RFID-enabled tickets, wristbands, or credentials with sensors and beacons throughout the facility. It's an open point as to whether what we've gone through has proved that we'll need such a thing in the future.
Aaron Peterson wrote, "Well, I think a lot will move to the phone itself. I do think there is always going to be a need to support a portion of the public with physical tickets and wristbands to make sure we can support all attendees for the fair and venue spaces we work in."
Aaron's experience with different types of venues provides insight into how different audiences may react to going 100% digital, and the need to provide options so that you can maximize the attendance. It's an open question whether all patrons will embrace going 100% digital.
Laura Zehe wrote, "I think there will always be a need for printed tickets for comp, reprint, and other needs. Some venues are continuing to operate as they always have, as their clients will not adapt well to using their phones. As far as paying more for a physical RFID or other ticket, that may become an option."
Laura makes an important point about the various types of tickets that may continue to be printed on paper simply for convenience, and also about the convenience for the patron and their desire to use or not use their phone. It's an open question whether all venues will embrace 100% digital.
Emmy Gengler wrote, "We do believe that not everything will go to digital immediately. There will be places for RFID tickets and wristbands for all the reasons you said, not having to worry about battery life, connectivity, sales at the door, etc. And of course, people will use souvenir ticket services."
Emmy provides additional support for the idea that a transition to 100% digital is going to take some time. And her observations confirm some of the points that got us thinking about how ticketing software companies may use RFID in the future.
Scott Solz wrote, "I do think there is still a market for printed tickets. We can send our tickets to phone or print. Most are still printing, at least for on-site purchases." Scott makes a good point that currently walk-up sales are often printed. I think this highlights the importance for venues to have both digital and physical ticketing options for some time to come. Ebony Haddix wrote, "It will be the ticket collectors and not those who do not have a smartphone. I know most who are talking about cashless contactless are also looking for contingency plans for those with cash or want a paper ticket."
Ebony makes a very interesting distinction between ticket souvenir collectors and people that don't have a smartphone. Eventually, everyone will probably have a smartphone, but there will still always be ticket souvenir collectors. Ebony also brings up the important point that venues should have a contingency plan for accepting cash for the foreseeable future.
Josh Klein wrote, "No two venues operate the same way, and more people are comfortable with using their phone for everything. Yet, there are those who desire having a physical ticket in their hands. I think it is best for a venue to offer all options." Josh confirmed some of the points that got us thinking about how ticketing companies may use RFID in the future. And he highlights the importance for venues to have flexibility with both digital and physical tickets. It's an open question as to how long the transition to 100% digital will take. Kerry Farina wrote, "As a festival and outdoor event ticketing company, we have many clients who will continue to utilize RFID in a post-COVID world. Certainly, there is interest in the mobile ticket, but I think there will continue to be a market for physical tickets. If those physical tickets have RFID and allow for contactless entry, even better."
Kerry provides another example of how RFID is currently being used. We wonder if in the post-COVID world, for safety reasons, technology like RFID may be required to keep paper tickets part of the total solution.
Kay Burnham wrote, "I do think there will be a portion of the population that only trusts and wants a hard ticket much longer than most people are thinking. When online ticket selling happened, everyone was sure the box office was going to be a thing of the past. Print at home was going to get rid of hard tickets. While these advances did change things, it takes a long time, even with a pandemic." Kay provides a great perspective on the changes we've seen in the ticketing industry.
and support for the idea that it's going to take time to achieve 100% digital ticketing. One of the open questions we have is how long that will take, and how do we fill the gap in the meantime? Matthew Zaracena wrote, "I could see a need for festivals potentially, whereby someone scans a ticket and then a device returns a wristband with information and maybe value on it. I think that would be a potential play, as I've talked with several festival organizers who hate mailing out wristbands ahead of time." Matthew touches on one of the ideas we had that got us started thinking about how ticketing companies may use RFID in the future. What if ticketing software providers offered a kiosk for self-service will call that has a temperature scanner, a camera to take ID pictures, a cash bill acceptor, credit card reader, and an RFID wristband printer? If the patron passes the temperature scan, they can use cash or credit to buy a wristband, printed with a color ID picture, to use for admission, making purchases, and tracking throughout the facility. To summarize our observations based on the great feedback we received, digital ticketing is gaining wider acceptance. There are reasons for keeping some physical ticketing. In the future, pandemic preparedness may require digital tickets or an equivalent alternative. RFID could fill the gap between the new features of digital ticketing versus traditional barcoded tickets. And now we'd like to begin the question and answer portion of our session.